Hello.
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 How are you? Happy Wednesday. We're glad to be back. Lulu Walks the Dogs coming at you. Chapter 11 today. Yesterday we finished with timeout when we were learning about Cordelia and how Cordelia was a very, what was that word? Do you remember?
Vain.
Vain. She was very vain. And they showed us a picture of Cordelia looking in the mirror. What do you think vain means, Jimmy?
Like sensitive?
Oh, sensitive. Okay. Let's look at what's going to happen in chapter 11. Let's see what's going to happen with Lulu and the dogs. Lulu, filled with impatience, was standing on Mr. and Mrs. porch, and she was late. Fleischman was waiting patiently under a tree. He was holding on to Pukey, who immediately, what do you think happened? Fell asleep. And gently patting Brutus, who promptly pooped. Mr. and Mrs. weren't upset about Lulu's being late because they were busy cooking for Cordelia, who even with Lulu's help could not be found. Fleischman watched Mr. and Mrs. and Lulu calling, "Cordelia, Cordelia," as they poked and prodded the junk pile on the porch. Remember that house that had all the stuff piled up, the picture? And then, because it was getting too late, and even though Lulu scowled, stay out of this scowl, he joined them. Handing the two dogs to Lulu, Fleischman knelt by the pile of junk and started speaking softly in a language that nobody else on the front porch knew. Well, nobody but Cordelia, because as soon as he started talking, she came popping out of the pile and yapping blissfully, went waddling over to Fleischman, yes. "It's Cordelia," shouted Mr. "It's Cordelia," shouted Mrs. "It's time," Lulu announced, "for me to go." Quickly taking over, she attached Cordelia's leash to Cordelia's collar and holding on to all three dogs, Pukey against her chest, the others on leashes, she turned to Fleischman, nodded, and said, "I'm leaving." That nod was maybe Lulu saying, "Thank you," or maybe not. Fleischman, though not invited, was leaving with Lulu. But Mr. and Mrs. first had two questions to ask. What kind of language did Fleischman speak to Cordelia? And what exactly did he say to her? Turn and talk. What do you think? What do you think Fleischman did to get Cordelia to come out? I mean, nobody could find her. What do you think?
I think he used like dog noises to he said Cordelia.
Dog noises, dog language. What do you think?
Said something that only a dog could understand.
So again, dog language. "I spoke in German," Fleischman explained, "because Cordelia's a dachshund, and dachshunds are German. I also know how to talk to French poodles in French." Then he told Mr. and Mrs. what he said to Cordelia to make her come out of hiding. But I really don't feel like discussing that right now. There's Cordelia. Chapter 12. Let's keep going. 6.5 minutes later, evening up with Brutus and Pukey, Cordelia, what do you think she did? What did she do? What do you think? Tell me. What do you guys think?
Pooped. Pooped.
Pooped. That's it. Moving on to chapter 13. We'll stop there for today. That was a short one. So we read chapter 11 and 12. Up next is chapter 13. What is going to happen? What is going to happen in this next chapter? I'll give you a hint. I'm going to read the first sentence and maybe that'll help you with your prediction. Lulu needed to get back home or else she'd be late for school. What's going to happen in chapter 13. And as Jimmy said, what'd you say?
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. Make a prediction. 13 coming at you tomorrow. See you tomorrow, friends.
Hi.
Bye.
Bye.